My name is Dr. James Bielo with the Department of Anthropology, and it is really a pleasure to be part of this first Digital Humanities Forum. A big thank you to Mark and the rest of the library staff for putting this all together. I'm going to speak with you today about a digital scholarship project that I developed and continue to curate in tandem with undergraduate student research assistants. The project is called Materializing the Bible. So I want to begin just by saying a bit about what the project is and how it got started, then walk you through the site. We will leave this PowerPoint slide very shortly here and go to the site and navigate around some. And then talk some about what I think its contribution has been, and then really highlight the contributions that the undergraduate research assistants have made, and conclude with just a few brief reflections on just the incredible value that I see in faculty-student collaboration. So, what is Materializing the Bible? It is a digital scholarship project designed to better understand the material dimensions of Christian tourism and pilgrimage, including emphases on place, infrastructure, technology, and multisensory experience, and really how all of those combine together in this particular expression of lived religion around the world. How do we do that? We curate a series of ethnographic and archival materials from sites around the world from different traditions, so different Protestant denominations, different Catholic traditions, or Eastern Orthodox traditions, Mormonism, Jewish sites, and even public sites, so sites that are religiously unaffiliated. All of them engage in this process that I'm describing as when written scripture is transformed into experiential choreographed environments. So this project got started back in 2015. So we launched it in summer of 2015. And that was, in some ways, on the heels of ethnographic fieldwork that I conducted in Kentucky on the making of a creationist theme park centered around the recreation of Noah's Ark. And so for me, that fieldwork, which took place from 2011 through 2014, was focused on the creative team who led the conceptualization and design of Ark Encounter. But doing that work got me thinking that this isn't the only example where people have taken a biblical story or event or person and tried to recreate it or tried to turn it into, in a literal or figurative way, a kind of environment that people experience. And so I wanted to explore that a bit and kind of think about materializing the Bible as its own kind of genre. And that's exactly what we did. So this is the Digital Scholarship Project. And of course, this is the current version. In many ways, it looks the same as the version that started in 2015. It's always been on the same platform. It had the same basic architecture, but we've done a lot of adding and changing and reorganizing over the years. So here are a few different features, which are kind of the core features of the site. One is the map feature. So we knew early on that we wanted to present visually where these different sites were located. And you see it's color-coded, yellow, green, red, purple, and lavender. And these line up with different kinds of sites, including lavender for non-extant sites, so sites that are no longer around. And you can, of course, zoom in and explore around. So why don't we zoom into the US here, and we get a sense for where biblical gardens are located. So these are sites where flowers, plants, trees, and herbs that are named in Scripture are cultivated in the same site. And so it's a sort of a themed botanical garden themed around biblical history. Or red for creationist sites, or yellow for recreations of different kinds. So for the non-extant sites, you bring it up and it shows you when it was founded and what it was, and it links you to some sort of evidence of its existence. So in this case, it's linking you over to this sort of news story from the 1960s. One thing we added was a layer feature. So let's say you just wanted to see where biblical gardens were located. You would uncheck the rest of the categories, and it would leave you just with biblical gardens. And again, if you wanted to zoom out and see where biblical gardens were around the world, you could do that as a visitor to the site. So we really wanted to give visitors a bit more agency in the searching process. We'll go ahead and reselect all of these. One feature that we plan to add is a timeline, so to show visually when sites started appearing, and for the non-extant examples going away. One of the key features is just the catalog of sites. So as of October 2020, we've collected over 500 extant attractions around the world in 44 different nations, and you can see how they're broken down here by number and by nation state. And if you wanted to go explore some of the attractions, let's say you wanted to go to the biblical gardens, let's say you were particularly interested in Protestant gardens, you would navigate over here. And let's say you were interested in this biblical herb garden in Clanton, Alabama. You would click the hyperlink and it would take you to a home page of some kind. Something we added a little later on, sort of into the life of the site, but something we knew we wanted to do from early on, from the beginning, was in a multimedia tours of specific sites. So, you know, we can't do in-depth tours of all 517 or however many, but we can profile ones where we have sort of a significant amount of ethnographic or archival data to offer. So we could go to, say, the Garden of Hope in northern Kentucky, Covington, Kentucky. It's a site where I've done quite a bit of field work, and we have just some narrative, descriptive narrative, some images, some archival scans. We have a little further down below here some audio of bells chiming on site. And so you could I'm not going to play it because we'll probably get feedback, but you could download this audio file and hear the bells chiming. And I'll actually come back to this example in a little bit because it's something that one of the undergraduate students worked on closely. In addition to the tours, we have this archival section. And so this kind of landing page just gives you an overview what items are in our physical archive. For the very serious visitor, they could go explore the index. We'll bring this file up briefly. So you can see this is a real deep dive into what materials we have, brochures, guidebooks, etc. And for each, under that drop-down menu, you can, say, navigate over to guidebooks and bring one up, zoom in, download, do your own analysis. You know, a big part of this project is the idea of methodological transparency, of showing what we've done and some of the data that we have, and allowing visitors to interact with it themselves. Of course, the whole thing is open access. Let me just go over to, let's say we wanted to look at old guidebooks. One of my favorites is this one from the Missouri Botanical Garden from 1884. It's one of the early exhibitions of Bible plants. And so we could zoom in. And again, you could, download it yourself if you wanted to, and just do your own analysis. And finally, we wanted to link this to the broader world of scholarship about these sites. Let's say someone was particularly interested in the Holy Land experience in Orlando, Florida. We have here all of the work that we know about that's been published about this site. And this is a good example of something that gets updated on a regular basis. Whenever we discover new work, whenever new work gets published, we try to keep that updated. So what's the contribution of Materializing the Bible? We hope, as an anthropologist, of course, its primary contribution is to the anthropology of religion. But I hope that anyone interested in pilgrimage and tourism, I hope anybody interested in what's called the social life of scriptures, I hope anybody interested in the broad field of material religion would be interested in this site, whether they're an anthropologist or a sociologist or a religious studies scholar or a practical theologian or any number of other historian or any number of other sort of fields, I think, and disciplines would be and are interested in the site. We've had the good fortune to be reviewed in some major journals. So, for example, American Anthropologist, the flagship journal for Anthropology in the United States, reviewed the project, Journal of Heritage Tourism, and other places as well. For me, one of the marks of the project's success is the fact that other people want to contribute. So we've had guest contributors from around the world, from California, Dr. Rosamond Rodman, to Yi-Ching Chang at Australian National University, who at the time was a PhD candidate. She contributed the tour of this Bible garden in I'll have to adjust that link later. A good example, again, of the kind of constant work that needs to happen for digital scholarship. If you go over to tours here, the Canberra Garden is one that Yi-Ching Chang did the curation for. So again, just some great images. There's a link to a news interview. There's a brochure that we can download and look at about the site. It's just been really wonderful to see other scholars respond to the site. We actually had a class at Rollins College who built the site into their course and contributed a tour of the Wycliffe Discovery Center in Orlando, and so on. For me, the core of the project, in addition to its kind of scholarly contribution, is the fact that it's a faculty-student collaboration. So a series of undergraduate research assistants have worked on the project, beginning with Amanda White back in 2015. Amanda was really instrumental in helping launch this. She helped design the site aesthetically and architecturally. She built the initial version of the Google map. She did a lot of the finding of early sites that I had no idea existed, and writing of profiles of early sites as well. So a huge debt of gratitude is owed to Amanda. Claire Vaughn, who graduated in spring of 2020, came onto the project and worked on it for several years. Ended up doing field work at a couple of different places, doing archival research at a couple of different places, and contributing several multimedia tours. So I'll give you one example. Claire was able to do some field work at the Ave Maria Grotto in Coleman, Alabama. And one thing she produced out of that field work was this tour. So all of the narrative is hers, and the images are ones that she took. The archival materials that are sprinkled in are ones that she found and scanned. I think there's a self-guided tour here somewhere. Yeah, right here. There's some wonderful images that she took. And then she also did some interviewing with folks who work there, and a sample of that audio interview is incorporated into the tour as well. So Claire contributed greatly. I want to highlight this other piece that Claire contributed to the Garden of Hope tour, which is a 3D model of a piece of the material culture on site. So throughout the garden, there are a series of landscape materials that were shipped over to the garden from, at the time, Palestine in the late 1950s. And there's a whole backstory there that I won't get into. But this rock here comes from the Western Wall, and it's still there today. And Claire, through a lot of photogrammetry work, produced this 3D rendering using Modelo. And a shout out to Dr. Jeb Card in the Anthropology department, who really helped orient us to Modelo as a software and kind of got us started working on this. So here you can spin this around and zoom in and in a sense just sort of play with it and kind of immerse yourself into the site further through this little bit of material culture. So the other student that I really want to highlight here, a number of students have worked on the project, but the student that's currently working on the project, Louise Wengert, has done a number of really useful things, including totally reorganizing the map. So let me go back to the map feature. One thing she did was she added the layers, so that wasn't there initially, and I think that's a really wonderful addition. Second is she added the non-extant sites. which weren't there originally. And I think that's really helpful to give a sense for sites that have disappeared from the landscape physically, but are there in memory and are part of the archival record and are still part of the analysis. When you again sort of click on one, it gives you some detail and when it opened, and hope you from many when we know the dates when it closed. She also added a lot of detail to the other sites. A good image, in many cases a link, and some other detail. So a great a debt of gratitude to Louisa as well for all of her work. So this project really wouldn't be what it is without the work of undergraduate research assistants. So let me conclude by just naming a few of the benefits that I see. So I think for students, they develop really a range of research skills here. They get an opportunity to do ethnographic fieldwork. They get an opportunity to do archival fieldwork. They get an opportunity to analyze and process that data, either that they've collected or that I've collected. So that ranges from transcribing audio and video to doing qualitative data analysis to just doing basic data management. They also get to write across genres. So one of the I think distinguishing features of digital scholarship is that it's public facing, and so it really requires a kind of writing that isn't just for specialized academic audiences. It needs to be presented in a way that's accessible to a diverse set of audiences, and so they get practice doing that. Of course, they also get an opportunity. Various opportunities for professionalization. So whether it's learning different software tools or collaborating with scholars from around the world, professionalization is a big part of this for students. I also think they get an opportunity to connect with different resources around campus. So I want to give a really big shout out to the Miami University Humanities Center. They were very generous in granting the project several different undergraduate research apprenticeship awards, which allowed me to not just sort of pay students with credit, but pay students with actual money, which is always ideal, and really just sort of support the project in that way. Also, the Center for Digital Scholarship was very helpful in working with the map feature and thinking about the organization of the site more broadly. And the Miami University libraries in general, I think, have been a big supporter of the project, whether they knew it or not. Students, undergraduate research assistants have used the libraries to find all kinds of archival material, including a lot of old, I'll just go over here, news stories for different sites. Many, if not most of these, were found through Miami University libraries. So I'll conclude there because I think I'm at my 15 minutes. I thank you very much for your time, and I really look forward to the discussion.